Welcome back, everybody, to Rob's MetalWorks. We have finally made it here to the Come and Take It in Austin, Texas, to support one of the most distinctive voices in heavy music. Brings me great pleasure to welcome the man, Tommy Vext. Sir, what an honor it is to have you on our show.
Oh, thanks for having me. You're a legend. It's great to be here.
Oh man, you're the legend, man. I mean, really, you impact so many people's lives with your music and the way that you live your life, especially in these kind of crazy, tumultuous times of social media. But lots to talk about. And as I was getting prepared today, I'm like, man, where am I going to start?
It's a lot of tea.
You got to tell me about that later.
Yeah.
I want to first start talking about the here and now, what's happening. You are on this Texas run.
Yeah.
The Fuck Cancel Culture Tour. It seems like everything is going wonderfully from what I've seen online.
Yeah, it's been... So, I think the first show was in Dallas-Fort Worth, and we played FitCon, and then they asked us to play, so we built out a little Texas tour around it, and, I hadn't been on stage in 18 months, so the last show I played pre-COVID was in Budapest, Hungary, with Megadeth and Five Finger Death Punch. And, like everybody, we came home and we were supposed to have like a month off and then back on the road tour, like business as usual. And like everybody, our lives got completely turned upside down by COVID and the lockdown. And, and then having a lot of extra free time, I like to do two things. I like to read and I like to work. So I went to the studio and started getting to work on music, and I wound up producing and recording a double covers album. I recorded 16 new songs that were to be Bad Wolves, and then I started learning a lot about a lot of the stuff that we were being told, and I questioned a lot of it. I think it's natural for metalheads and people in the punk scene and all the kind of anti-culture people to question the narratives of the things that we've been told. And it was I talked about a lot of it, and I talked about some things, and people did not like it. A lot of people loved it. Most people loved it. I think mostly working class Americans and people who were like on the ground level, who were feeling the effects, were starting to question that things were not adding up. But the powers that be, the billion-dollar CEO record label executives and this, that, the other, I wasn't being a good monkey.
I think that, more and more people, the blue-collar workers, the people out there every day that struggle to survive in our country, really appreciate the transparency, and especially when transparency just seems so scarce these days.
Well, so people are lying. People in the entertainment industry, they're too afraid of the consequence of cancel culture. And basically, there is a movement in Hollywood that if you go against the narrative, you'll never work in this town again. It's something I've talked to Gina Carano about this. We know each other from social media and stuff, and I was a huge fan of The Mandalorian, and obviously her MMA career, she broke down a lot of walls for women's mixed martial arts. And even somebody like that, who is such an outstanding role model for young women, to be canceled over seemingly nothing,
What is it, a Twitter post or something?
Yeah, a Twitter post. Like she, it was demanded that she, put her pronouns in her thing, and she made like droid noises, like thought it was cute, and the angry leftist mob just had at it, and we're seeing the backlash from that. Cancel culture is not a sustainable culture, and it's a lot of people who, I think the people who kind of egregiously partake in these Frankenstein-style mob lynchings of people, they're people who I think have no accomplishments, and rather than focus on their own dreams, they are kind of tortured by the accomplishments of others, or just the fact that other people get to live a life that they built for themselves. and they want to take that away and tear it down because they suffer from low self-esteem. And anyone who feels low about themselves, there's only two ways to go about it. You either got to climb out of a hole, but sometimes people climb and pull other people down, and they try to
people down.
Yeah, they try to tear them down to stay at their bottom level.
Sure.
And we're seeing that. I think the internet, the advent of social media, has been a remarkable connective tool, but it's also, just like humanity, we have a propensity to utilize technology for good and also for evil.
To turn it into something bad, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a form of control, and people who are, have that jealousy within them just want to tear people down, and it's a horrible thing. And we'll talk more about that later. But how does it feel for you to be back on stage after all this time?
Oh, it's great.
Looks like you're having fun, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's to be honest, like last night, a couple who's been to every show that I've done with Bad Wolves in Texas, they came. I've been doing merch signings every night, and they said, they're like, we've seen every show you've ever done in this state.
Wow.
And something's different, and I was like, gonna get ready for the critique, I thought maybe because I'm only doing these shows with one guitar player, and maybe they were like, oh, you should have two guitar players,
right?
And they were like, you're happy, like it's like the light in your eyes is back, and you're having so much fun, and everyone in the room is having more fun, because we're just all so grateful to come back and to not be afraid, and I think a lot of that too is I don't think I even realized how there was a lot of negative space in the band, and I think that being the only sober person is it's difficult, and I think that people who are using drugs and alcohol to cope with their feelings and this, that, the other, I think that it can be easy to blame things on other people. It's the same thing. So the vibe is much lighter, and
right.
It's all bare bones. It's all punk rock, and I'm with my family too. All the crew guys are with, when we split, they all came with me.
Yeah.
So everybody who worked for Bad Wolves is like, we're all together now. It's the same tour managers and front of house and merch guys and lighting guys and driver and assistant and security, and it's just and then I get to jam with my buddies. Yeah,
it seems like this tour really is kind of going to be a launching pad. I've already kind of heard mumblings about that this will eventually escalate into a national tour, hopefully.
Yeah, that's what's next. So as we're getting offers from venues in different states as the states are opening.
Yeah.
So we'll without a doubt be doing, like the Colorado, Utah, Vegas, Arizona areas. We'll be doing Florida and Georgia and probably Nashville, maybe two places in Tennessee. So we're just putting packages together, and yeah, it's exciting. It's fun.
It is, man, to see that there's still so much, hunger to have you out there performing and being part of people's lives. And I think, people are already kind of accepting the fact that, the old Bad Wolves is over, and that you kind of removed yourself from that and chose to be a solo artist. And, I've heard you say, like, and like I was telling you before we started rolling, I've known about you for so long now. And when you were a hired gun and with Dino and even, in other bands, but now really kind of coming into your own. And so from this point forward, are we really going to see Tommy Vext, the solo artist? Is that it?
Yeah, well, I think it's important to understand the breaking down the myth of Bad Wolves.
Yeah.
Right? So Bad Wolves was a side project called Eye of Tongues. It wasn't my main band. John and Max Karen were working on these songs, and I got signed as a result of taking over for Ivan Moody in Five Finger Death Punch when he was had to get hospital treatment for his addiction. And it's been amazing to see his recovery, and it's like one of the biggest privileges of my life is seeing the change in him and how his whole life is like. And I was just like a small little coin in that like whole, you know, in that whole piece of that painting. And as a result, you know, Better Noise signed me, and you know, Bad Wolves, we put out Disobey. I named the band. I created the logo with Zoltan from Five Finger Death Punch. I had a very specific message, you know, and it's like what most people don't realize is that no one in Bad Wolves plays on Bad Wolves records. So about 50% of the drums are John. 100% of the guitars are Max Karen, who's actually the guitar tech for Faith No More. So he did all the guitars, all the bass. He wrote all the heavy songs, and then I wrote all the radio songs, basically with Drew Folk, and I write with several different people.
Yep.
So it was a solo group. I just didn't have the courage to go out as my name. And I think that as the band skyrocketed to success, people started believing that they were responsible for it.
Right.
You know, and you got all those guys have platinum plaques, all these platinum, gold, double platinum, diamond plaques for a song that they didn't play on. You know, and the real guitar players who and pianist who did Zombie is Philip Naslin, who's a Swedish producer who I've known for a long time. We met working together in a Big Brother program, and then once the song was done, I had Max retrack the guitars. So, you know, it's an interesting thing how the music industry and it was very like, don't tell anybody, like it's going to be a bad look for the band, like people don't need to know. And I'm just like, this is the process. Like Marilyn Manson, Rob Zombie, Nine Inch Nails, Filter, like people know that the people in the band they're there to jam, you know. And so I think that there was a lot of issues with that. I think guys got egos and then got resentful, and then there was a fight for creative control. And politically, we have very different ideologies, right? And so I would say that I'm like middle leaning right, and a couple of those guys are very far leftist.
Right.
Very, very in the opposite deep end, and to a point where it's like you can't even communicate without it turning into emotional violence. And it's just, you know, the irony is like, you know, people have asked me this. They're like, well, why didn't you just fire the band members because you own the band?
Right.
And it's this simple. I believe in freedom of speech. Right. So if I don't believe what you believe, that doesn't mean I'm going to put you in a position where you can't eat, or you don't get to have your job, or you don't get to live your dream. And it was easier for me to just be like, you know what, like, I'm good on this. Like, enjoy. And
you still own part of Bad Wolves?
Yeah, well, right now, everything was going smoothly. And, you know, I talked with management, and obviously Zoltan no longer manages Bad Wolves. Once I left, he was like, I'm not involved in this anymore. 'Cause he's like my brother. And, you know, that the management gave me the idea to do the GoFundMe, because the label said, you know, we're going to give you your cover album and your original music and just have a nice day, but you have to pay the bill. So I was like, I don't have $50,000 to pay this bill. It's been COVID. We've been sitting around doing nothing. So the GoFundMe wound up raising like $178,000. Wow. The record label got mad. They called the studio and said, you're not allowed to release the masters to him or we'll sue you. And then put a hold on all of my music. So they kind of out of resentment. I think it was like one of those situations where I think there's a lot of egos at play, and that's the thing, is like, this is where the divide in the country lays, where there's so much arrogance and pompous around this liberal superiority and liberal supremacy, where these people feel like they're entitled to destroy your life if you don't go along with their narrative. And that's, I believe in diversity of thought. If I didn't believe in diversity of thought, as I said, I would have terminated people who were employees of mine. And that's not how I roll. So as punishment, they reneged on the agreement, and now the lawyers are doing lawyer things and wasting time and money. And, like, for example, today, the record label had my YouTube channel deleted because the tour is going well. Not for any other reason. The cover songs, the videos of the cover songs, they're all over the internet because they were on Patreon and fans ripped them, and they've been streamed millions of times all over the internet. But they want to personally injure me from promoting the tour and from promoting my artwork or even my covers, which I don't make money off of because other people wrote them. So this is the kind of culture that you're seeing with Better Noise Music and other labels, and it's just, I see bands like Motley Crue just talk shit about Trump, berate Trump, say horrible things about him, that they get all kinds of allegations against them, racism, like sexual assault. That's fine. But if I question BLM or Joe Biden's mental capacity, I'm demonized and I have to be terminated. And it's strange.
What's the differentiation there, you think?
Agenda. It's agenda. It's control. That I think that there are people who feel entitled to controlling culture, whereas, like, I grew up in the punk rock hardcore scene. Yeah. Culture is cultivated by the people. Like, we are the thinkers, we are the doers, we are the growers, we are the artists. And I think with social media and everyone, I've said this before. Sorry, my phone's blown up. We have a lot of influencers in today's world, and no leaders. There's no leadership. There's just people trying to influence, like, oh, hey, this is cool. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, what do you stand for?
Right.
What do you believe in? And largely, it's hard to find any of these people who are so vehemently committed to destroying other people's platforms, mostly because they stand for nothing. And so I've questioned this, and I've wondered, but I just don't. I don't know. I'm not in that club.
Sure.
I don't hang out with those people. I don't get it.
Does that mean that the release of the covers record or any new music from Tommy Vext is kind of in the air at this point?
Yeah, right now it's indefinite. So we're hoping that it gets resolved soon, because I know part of the agreement is Bad Wolves will be allowed to continue on with the name and a new singer, but if I'm not given my records or financial settlement for such, there will be no Bad Wolves, and they will cease to exist. There's a kill switch clause in that John and I are the only owners, and neither of us can operate as Bad Wolves without the consent of both parties.
Right.
So
you're gonna come out favorably either way.
I mean, to me, it would have just, if everyone stuck to the script and we just went along with it, and you give me my stuff, I'll give, because they're getting the logo, they're getting my name. I designed every piece of merch. I mean, the Bad Wolf is me. You have the
little mark on the logo.
The mark on the logo is a cut on my eye. Yeah. From getting stabbed when I was a kid in a mosh pit. You know what I mean? Everything about it. It's surprising too that nobody read the lyrics. The first album's called Disobey, right? Zombie is a protest anthem. The song The Conversation was written in 2017. It is a political debate song challenging both sides. Officer Down is talking about the complexity of, what law enforcement has to deal with on a regular basis versus the infractions that happen that we get hyper publicized with police shootings.
Yeah.
And it's a conversation. I believe in talking about things and having material that causes us, it should be thought-provoking. That's what books are for.
Right.
And I think that's why a lot of the songs, from songs like Sober, to, I don't know, Learn to Live, they're thought-provoking. Completely different creatively, but thought-provoking.
And they were all kind of conjured up from your own life experiences and things that you've gone through in your life. I mean, the magic was your magic.
Yeah,
which kind of...
Not to take away... Listen, I think Max is one of the greatest guitar players I've ever jammed with. He's up there with Dino Cazares. He's fucking... And he's an unsung guy. Like, it's... His band, Once Human, is amazing and phenomenal. And if you listen to them, you will hear a different version.
I first heard his name. I just sorry, I didn't interrupt you, but I first heard his name. I remember when I interviewed Logan.
Yeah.
And Logan brought him up, and I remember at that time, I think it was when the second record came out, they had 3 guitar players.
Yeah.
And I think because they brought Max into the band, and I was like, he was like, "Oh, Rob, but this guy's great," and
it's
obviously,
he's another level.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want to be in a band.
Yeah.
He's happy to just be creative.
Yeah.
And he is the guitar player who did all the covers with me, and then unfortunately the band basically forced him to not work with me anymore after I split with them. And so there's been a lot of very weird, petty, emotional decisions that I don't really quite understand. I've seen Kyle right before this tour because he had to drop off equipment, and we hugged it out. He apologized. He said some racist things about me on the internet. He apologized. He said he didn't mean it that way. And I was like, it's cool, man. Like, I don't hold a grudge, And I kind of told him, I'm like, I don't know if the guys are on drugs or what they're doing, but all this was completely unnecessary.
Yeah.
And the election's over, long over, and now you guys are sitting at home wondering when you're going to go on the road again, and I'm going to work.
It's if we look at the bigger picture, and we're talking about some of this, turmoil and resentment that happens, even in our most intimate relationships, and we saw it kind of like wildfire all over the country with the Capitol riots and
there's
all
a song
of
called Wildfire.
It's all in there.
That's a new song that's being held up.
And we see it, and I think now, the country is just becoming a very delicate, kind of scary place. People are kind of sometimes afraid to be as transparent as you because they're afraid of that backlash, and that's a horrible way to live.
The problem, the reason why we can't accept such a vehement backlash to ideas is because as a society, as we continue to become further divided, we're more easily controlled. And that's what most people, I don't care if you're on the left or the right, the reality is that there is a work at play by massive corporations to undermine the effectiveness of government and the effectiveness of the Constitution as it was put into place to work on behalf of the people of this nation. And it doesn't matter what your race is, it doesn't matter how you identify as your gender, it doesn't matter how old you are or young you are, or whatever you believe in, your religion, wherever you grew up, what city, county, country, backwoods, it doesn't matter. And this is the reality. This is the new reality. There is no right and there's no left. This is the United States of America. And people are allowed to have different political leanings, but at the end of the day, basically, I put it like this. If I was getting on a plane to go play a show and Joe Biden was the captain of the plane, I'd be at another flight. Period.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
So, and that's it. So people can say, oh, I hate Trump or I hate this person or that person. And I'm like, well, your party doesn't produce any has not produced a candidate of legitimacy in a long time. So don't be mad at me because of your incompetence.
If you indeed kind of have all this legality settled out and you do get your music and your songs, Would you like to get signed by another big label, or is that something that doesn't interest you anymore?
I've contemplated this. I've contemplated opening my own label. Censorship is an issue. There would have to be a clause where, you know, like for example, Joe Rogan has gone through this.
Yep.
So, love Joe. We have a few mutual close friends. His episodes, when he signed with Spotify, certain conspiracy theorist guests were taken down, and in his contract, the contention is, well, it says here I'm allowed to have whoever I want on the show, and you can't say anything, and that's the only reason why I agreed to sign with you.
Right.
But they said that's true, but we get to decide what material stays on our platform, and that is the liberal way. So they engineer our ability to have conversations, and they engineer our ability to what we're allowed to discuss and not discuss through these weird legal loopholes where they control creatives. They control thought-provoking conversation. They fact check it. They delete you. They block you. They shadow ban you. And it has to stop.
Is that the bourgeois? The rich people who are trying to control everybody?
I don't know. It's not poor people. It's not working class people, you know. It's not the proletariats. Most of us just want to get on with life, you know. Most of us want to feel safe, and we want to raise our kids in a safe environment.
Mm-hmm.
And I think most people, and I've traveled all over the world, and I speak to a lot of people, and I think most of us are just trying to do a little bit better than our parents did for us and take care of the people that we love. But humanity is a beautiful thing. It takes a lot of work to manipulate and turn neighbors against each other. And the only reason that's valuable is when somebody wants to rule over.
Right.
So we have to all be very, you know, and it's not like the left is bad, the right is bad. There's corruption all throughout all sides of the political spectrum and all the industrial complex. All of them. There's corruption. Wherever there's absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Right.
You know, and so, you know, as long as we're muted and we're not permitted to engage in meaningful, thoughtful conversation, we're not learning. I need to talk to people who believe this stuff so I can understand why. They need to listen to what I have to say so they can see a different perspective. This is not like, you know, there's not like there's some weird media illusion that there's like a white supremacy everywhere. And I'm like, what I know about white supremacists they're a tiny minority. And they're very poor, and they're very angry, and
they're usually kind of like backwoods people too.
Yeah, and so these people are not a threat because they have no control and no power. The people that we need to be afraid of are the people who, you know, collude with pharmaceutical companies that are indemnified from being sued if they kill our children or our relatives, but then also pump all the money into the news outlets. You can't expose your investor. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
And then it reaches further into, you know, people don't understand it. If you can buy a politician, why can't you buy a doctor? You know, we're living in a time where everyone has a price on their head, and no one is concerned for the greater good. Or the real scary thing is like the AOCs, that they actually believe that this stuff that is not based in science. They actually believe they are fighting for the greater good, and it fuels the insanity because they're on a deluded moral prowess that they're actually in the right. And that's almost more dangerous. You can't reason with them, you know?
it seems like a lot of these things are kind of still developing for you at this point, and I also heard that you were working on an autobiography. Is that gonna kind of pan out a little bit eventually down the road?
Yeah,
as things kind of come to fruition and
so
conclusion?
the final edit of my biography is done. It is a biography I co-wrote with an author named Riley Perez. We actually met in 2018 through Rob Weiss, who is the producer of Entourage on HBO, Ballers. He produced American Psycho along with several other films. So we had a mutual friend, and I in recovery I tell my life story a lot, and so a few celebrities have told me, oh, you need to write a book, and I'm not going to name drop, but I was like, yeah, I did that whole like, oh, I'm not good enough to write a book, and these guys said, you're going to write this book. So we did, and we finished it over COVID, and then the final edits went out a couple months ago, and now it's just about deciding on, do I do a book deal? There are conversations about licensing the rights for it to be a script, to be a movie based on my life. So like from a creative standpoint, despite this very emotionally abusive, vehement attempt at controlling my future, there are other creative outlets that those entities have no dominion over.
Right.
And it's unfortunate that you have to like look at things this way in this kind of chessboard, where it should just be like, I want to do good things and I'm going to work really hard and I'm going to move forward. The gatekeepers simply insist that you have to pay the toll, and then once you pay the toll and you start paying a good toll, they got to make sure you can't move forward without them.
That's such a blessing, though. I mean, that you can move beyond music and a lot of those old professional relationships into new areas of professional work. And I think the book was one. I'm going to have to ask you, I mean, what if they said, yeah, Tommy, we're going to do a movie on you or a series on you. You want to act in it? Would you consider acting? I could see you acting.
Yeah, I would consider it. I'm not a fan. I opted out. Better Noise made a few movies, and they wanted me to be in Retaliators, and I did one scene. And then during COVID, they wanted me to reshoot, and they were like, you have to take a COVID test, and I was like, I'm not interested in being in these movies. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I know, like, I have friends who are Academy Award-winning actors. Sure. They love this shit. They're like, that's their whole life. That's not really my thing. They could find someone much more attractive to play me in my life story. Like, I don't know, get like Michael B. Jordan or The Rock or somebody with abs, because I ain't got no abs.
I remember you saying too, like, I had my first show last night and I got a little winded. Yeah. And I always see you working out on social, man. So I'm like, man, Tommy's he's getting back in shape, getting ready for these shows and what lies ahead. It's
a different kind of. So shows require more cardio, and so actually what happened is about 2 months ago, I started running again, didn't stretch, and I strained my calf muscle. So then my cardio was relegated to the Stairmaster and to walking upright. So when I'm fully healed, and I've been like, boom, running around stage.
Jumping up and down.
Yeah, and then my body is like, oh my God, what are we doing? And it's like, you haven't done this in a year and a half.
But, and you're not, I mean, you're playing like an hour and a half. That's a pretty good set there to be doing that.
Yeah, it's nice because I don't have lazy band members. These guys they'll learn, they all want to be on stage and jam. The vibe is like, everyone's having fun. It's not that serious. It's like, we're here to just connect with people. We had a girl come on stage crying last night, and she's like, I've been to every one of these shows. I'm going to go to the whole tour. I'm like, they drove from Tennessee, and I'm like, really? Like, fuck, man. Like,
you got to throw down for her now, especially hard. Yeah, there's always so many hungry musicians out there, man, that I feel would love to be on stage with you. So you have 2 more dates left. I think you're doing the Gas Monkey in Dallas, and then you're going to Houston, and so fans yet who are going to see you up and coming, what can they expect from these shows that you're doing now? What songs are you playing, and how are you kind of mixing it up a little bit?
Well, so what we're doing is we're kind of interluding the sets. There's 2 sets, and so the first set is a Bad Wolf set.
Okay.
And then we break down and do acoustic, and then we transition into the cover album. Then the electric, everybody comes back on, and then we do a cover set, and then fucking bang out the hits.
Wow.
It's fun.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it's so cool now too, because things are opening up, and people are, coming to shows, people are not wearing their masks, and, here in Texas before, they had tables, and you couldn't even go to the bar and grab a drink. And did you see that Madball gig in New York? All those people.
So they reported. So this is the funny thing.
I thought that was freaking crazy.
I had friends who were there. They report and like Metal Injection. I've known Rob Pisbani since we were in high school together.
Okay.
And he's just like trolling that whole. And I get it. Like, some people are deathly afraid of COVID.
Sure.
And they've been inside for a year and a half. And they think if they go outside, they're going to die. And a lot of the media are like that. Because they also already work from home. So they've continuously worked. And, they're in a bubble. And, it was reported that 2,000 people showed up at Washington Square Park for that concert. I've been playing shows for 20 years. That was not 2,000 people. That was not 3,000. That was at least 5,000 people. I saw all the videos.
Yeah.
That park, I grew up in New York. I know that park. I know Madball. I know, John Joseph played with Blood Clot. There's no way that was 2,000 people. And this is the thing, too. It's like, they're trying to wreck them, be like, oh, they got the permits in the park saying it was a memorial for 9/11, this or the other, or whatever the fuck. It's just like, dude, enough is enough. Like, you're just shaming people for trying to live, and this is the reality. It doesn't make you virtuous to be a fucking coward. Most of these people are cowards. The critics are cowards. They don't have the tenacity. They don't have what it takes to go up there and do it, so they criticize it and they turn that into a living. And they need to really be humble in their limitations of the lives that they've created for themselves. And I've been on 2 sides of the spectrum. I've been the media darling, right? Tommy Vext, sober, donates hundreds of thousands of dollars to charity. Person of the year, Rock to Recovery.
Sober coach.
I've helped all kinds of people. I've done homeless drives. I've donated the music video budgets to Learn to Walk Again to 2 police officers who were ambushed and shot in Compton. This is who I am. And I got it, and I went through an extortion and a fake Me Too attempt last year, and because I endorsed a political party that they didn't like,
right,
they took that and tried to make that who I was in the press. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's hilarious. It's hilarious the lengths that these people will go to either deplatform or demoralize anyone of character, and it says a lot. You got guys like Metal Sucks. They're anonymous. I know their names. I know these guys. I know where they live. I know where their kids go to school. Like, if I wanted to dox them, I could put all their shit on the internet at any time I wanted to. But I'm not going to be petty like that. And eventually we'll all see each other and they'll have to look at me and be like, I'm like, how you're pathetic. Like, how, bro, I've known you guys for 20 years. Right?
Yeah.
Like, this is what you're doing now. You're writing hit pieces on the people who got successful because you don't like my political views.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
I
heard they were going to do an investigation on that show. That the city started an investigation on it. And I was like, what the hell?
Who cares?
It's done.
Who gives a shit?
Right.
You know what they should do an investigation on? How many people die of COVID from going to the Madball concert? Because the number's going to be 0.
Right.
And they're just trying to threaten people and scare people from living their lives.
Yeah.
And it's just like, if you want to live like a coward, don't pretend you're a brave person. Just be a coward, There are plenty of animals in the animal kingdom that when push comes to shove, they tuck their tail between their legs and they flee. That's just, if that's who you are, that's who you are. Just be it. Don't pretend you're something you're not.
So, if the strategy worked out the way that you wanted it to, it would be the covers record coming out first, and then another record of original music.
I think that.
Are you even thinking that far yet?
No, I mean, because I don't know if the music and the agreements are going to be done in 30 days or if it's going to be done in 2 years.
Yeah.
Right. We could be in litigation. If we have to go into litigation, it's going to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars that I'm going to have to go to work every day and just not take care of my mom and pay this money to a lawyer to free my music up from an empirical billionaire who doesn't give a shit. Doesn't give a shit about any human being but his own pockets. Yeah. And so really this is the reality that you just have to either, and that's life. You accept life on life's terms. Like, I didn't do any of this. Other people made decisions, and I was like, these are the options to amicably fix this. And then they, people get greedy and they get weird, and I'm just like, okay, my only job is to respond and not react.
So even if John said, give Tommy his stuff and we'll buy him out, and even if he advocated for that,
John is not in control.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
John is not even. I don't want to say disparaging things, but John's former singer can attest to what John is. Yeah. I don't have to say. Yeah, you can ask Des.
Sure.
I don't.
Sure.
That I didn't. Des told me some things. Before.
Yeah.
I ignored them. And then he was right.
Before we move on and stop talking about Bad Wolves, obviously people will remember you from when you fronted the band, and if you look back, I mean, obviously you guys accomplished so much in such a short amount of time for a rock band.
Sure.
Commercially. Just quickly, what is your fondest memory? What would be your fondest memory looking back?
I don't know. There was a lot. I think that probably bringing my mom on stage to sing Zombie with me was one of them. But there's been a lot, some of them had nothing to do with being in the band. I've lived an incredible life. I fell in love with a girl in Australia and got on a plane and went there, and we had a great relationship, and she got in trouble with the law and couldn't date her anymore. But I've lived a life. Like, even before the band thing happened, for somebody who was a homeless drug addict, I was a crack baby, so I was abandoned by my mother when I was born, and all the shit that happened leading up to it, my life is a miracle. And if it was all taken away from me today, could I be fine with nothing? Like, yeah, I think that the perspective is now, you can't purchase peace. It's inside, right? And so if you're like a clean conscience and a sense of, I did that, so you can never take away what I've done, and that's good enough for me.
I'm glad those guys made you do the biography now.
Yeah.
Because I mean, when you really think about it, Tommy, I like I told you, I've followed you for many years, and one of the things I've always loved about you is, just the fact that your life has been a tumultuous ride with very high highs and very low lows, but yet still you persevere, and the story of your life, and it's in and of itself inspires people, and I think that's what people grasp onto. That's why people are coming to your shows, and I only see it getting bigger and grander, because I don't think the story of Tommy Vext is far. I think it's far from over. That's what I think.
I would hope that you're right.
I know I'm right,
I don't have any intention of stopping.
Yeah.
But I don't place expectation.
Yeah.
You know, like the highlight of this tour was last night, and we pulled into a truck stop. Everybody's in the truck stop. I don't want to go in the truck stops. I'm just sitting up here drinking my water. And there's a knock on the door, and I'm like, oh, one of the guys forgot the code. So I go, and the window's open, and it's just his brother, and he's like, yo, man. He's like, hey. He's like, you guys in a band? And I was like, yeah, something like that. And he's like, I play in the church gospel choir. Like, you know, he's like, give me a guitar, I'll prove it. And I was like, what's going on, bro? Like, all right. I'm like, let's cut to the chase. What's up? And he's like, man, he's like, my car broke down. It's right over there. I'm not bullshitting. He's like, I had to spend my last $167 to fix my car, and I got to drive to Amarillo. It's almost 2 hours away. I have no money for gas. And then our security came up, and there's Bubba's right there. And Bubba came up and talked to the guy.
Is that who he is, Bubba?
Yeah.
All
and
right.
then Josh, and I was like, he's cool. Hold on one second. Yeah, I came back and I shook the guy's hand. I gave him a $100 bill, and he didn't look at the money. And he was like, yo, thank you so much, man. I was like, that's $100. I was like, what's your name? He was like, David. And I was like, all right, David, I'm going to pray that you get home safe. That's $100. I was like, make sure you get home, okay?
Wow.
And, you know, he was sober, bro. This guy was like, really, like, he was just in a shot situation. And he looked at the money and he started crying. And then we all almost cried. And we're like, it's cool, man. Like, you know. And I was that guy.
You empathize.
I was that guy. I was homeless. I was living on a fucking park bench. You know, Sonny from Snot took me in, you know, helped me get sober. And I don't forget that. And it might not mean a lot to me. Like, it's not a big deal to me, right? But, you know, maybe that guy will remember that.
Of course he will.
You know, and we need more of that.
I recently, as we get near to the end of this interview, you know, I kind of heard that... and I think I posted about this on your Facebook page. Is it true that, or maybe you don't know, I don't know, but Dino was going to re-release the first Divine Heresy record with you on it? Is that true?
I don't know. He does not have my permission to do that.
Can he do it without your permission, or does he need your... Because I know that you wrote...
Yeah, because I wrote all the lyrics and vocals and melodies and stuff and everything on that. So would I be opposed to it? No, but I mean... You know, Dino we talked about doing some shows and stuff even when Bad Wolves was still going strong and like all that stuff. And it was that Tim refused to talk to Dino. So I called Tim and I was like, bro, listen. He's like, I just don't want that guy in my life. And I was like, come on, dude, let's just go play some songs.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, Joe passed away. Let's just donate some money to Joe, to his family, and let's just go jam. And then Dino blew it, and that was it. You know. And then the last I heard, he was on Twitter, and he was saying that I was gonna make all the band members wear masks to go on stage, so the attention was on me. And I'm like, dude, that's literally Assassino. Like, what are you talking about? And then I didn't know that Burton wasn't in.
Oh God.
I didn't know that Burton wasn't in Fear Factory anymore. Which is, again, like, Burton is Fear Factory, his voice. And so they're going to have a new singer. They've been begging Lauren from Once Human to sing for them.
No way.
Yeah, I don't think she's into it. They're all friends, but
Wow.
It's like, it's lowbrow for her. She's like...
Right.
I told her she should try for Bad Wolves. I don't think they're going to be able to find a man to replace me. They could find a real rock star front woman, and that might work. But there's the only vocalists who could do what I do are Corey Taylor, Howard Jones, and Ivan. Those are the three vocalists who are versatile enough and to do what I do.
I agree.
Those guys all don't need to be in Bad Wolves.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then they also pioneered like what I do. They're like huge influences on me. So I don't know what they're going to do.
Wow. Interesting. Tommy, what a great conversation, man. And I'm sure we could keep it longer. But any last words, anything I missed that you want to share with people around the world who will watch this interview?
Not much, man. Just I always say, like, take care of yourselves, take care of each other. It's tough times. It's gonna get better times. Hard times have not come to stay; they come to pass. And check in with your friends, check in with your family, call your family. Just see how people are doing. It goes a long way. We need more connectivity. Don't not talk to your family because of their political beliefs. That's ridiculous. It's utterly ridiculous. We need more love.
It's been my pleasure and my honor, sir.
Dude, my man.
I hope we can do it again in the future. I know that you still have greater things to do, and I can't wait. And I will continue to follow you. And all you people out there, continue to follow the man because new music surely is on the horizon. You saw Tommy Vext only right here on Rob's Metal.